Thank you for listening and supporting the Daily Memphian. Sign up for one of our many free newsletters and breaking news alerts at dailymemphian.com/email to receive the latest local news stories impacting our community. Our weekly newsletters cover everything from sports to arts and culture, business, food, and more, along with daily updates of all the news we publish each day. Sign up or manage your email preferences at dailymemphian.com/email.
This is the Daily Memphian Politics Podcast. I'm Bill Dries. A short one this week in the form of an update on several fronts, not the least of which is the return of a pandemic that never really left. As we record this on a Friday, we are several hours into a new mask mandate that is looser in its terms than the one that came with business closings, some schools closing, and other schools going to hybrid online and in-person schedules. Shelby County Health Department Director Dr. Michelle Taylor telling county commissioners just before issuing the new edict that she is not even thinking about the phased approach used by her predecessor, Elisa Haushalter. That approach was to issue a directive and with it say that if things don't get better, this is the next step, or if things do get better, this is what is next. In fact, Taylor specifically said this is to allow businesses to remain open, but mostly to give the city's hospitals some breathing room from an influx of new cases, many involving children. More on that in just a bit. Taylor says indoor masking could last at least 30 days. What this directive does not do, it does not mandate masks for all schools, as Taylor's previous directive this month did before it was nullified by Governor Bill Lee's executive order that specifically bans such mask mandates in schools. But Shelby County Schools continues to abide by the mask mandate despite Lee's executive order, so it looks like that battle is still being fought, just not by the health department at this moment. No word from Lee at this point on calling a special legislative session that his executive order was designed to work around. Lieutenant Governor and State Senate Speaker Randy McNally, however, condemning Shelby County schools and Metro Nashville schools for keeping their mask mandates in place. And McNally says the legislature will not let those mandates stand. Now to the hospitals. The directors of every emergency department of every hospital system in the city, including the children's hospitals, signing a letter to local leaders calling for a county-wide mask mandate. The leaders also saying their hospitals are almost at the breaking point as COVID cases they are seeing should double by the end of August and could increase sixfold by the end of September. That means the possibility of triage. COVID cases and COVID cases among children that are hospitalizing children are the tipping point in a crisis that also includes a shortage of skilled nurses and health professionals, the surge in violent crime this summer, more car crashes, and other factors. If there were an unplanned event involving mass casualties like a tornado or a building collapse, let's say, the emergency directors say they would not be able to handle it as things stand now. The shortage of skilled healthcare professionals is a national competition in which travel nurses, temps if you will, have gone from being paid $24 to $30 an hour to being offered as much as $130 an hour, plus free meals, travel expenses, and room and board. At Regional 1, the Trauma Center and Safety Net Hospital, not just for the city but for the region, including Mississippi and Arkansas, 21 beds have been closed because of the shortage. The Memphis City Council this past week sending $2 million of its American Rescue Plan Act money to Regional 1 with plans to send another $1 million down the road. At its Monday, August 23rd session, Shelby County Commissioners are expected to approve $3.6 million from its ARPA allotment to Regional 1. $3.6 million is the dollar figure for how much it will take to get the 21 beds staffed 24/7 for 13 weeks being the term of a contract with the travel nurses. The state's executive order banning mask mandates taking fire from President Joe Biden, as well as Biden's Education Secretary Miguel Cardona, specifically questioning the legality of the order. In a letter to Lee and Tennessee Education Commissioner Penny Schwinn, Cardona says blocking science-based strategies for preventing the virus, quote, may infringe upon a school district's authority to adopt policies to protect students and educators as they develop their safe return to in-person instruction plans required by federal law. Lee responding, quote, parents know better than the government what's best for their children. That was followed by the feds announcing their willingness to investigate civil rights complaints from parents of students in school districts that forbid masking. Those investigations would be along the lines of whether the stance violates access to public education. Biden specifically issuing a memo directing his education department to, quote, use all available tools to ensure that governors and other officials are providing a safe return to in-person learning for the nation's children. So far, no specific talk of challenging the state's ban of the hybrid in-person online schedules that all 6 of Shelby County's suburban school systems used in one form or another in the previous school year. State law since then has been changed to ban the hybrid schedules. Students must either go all in person or all online, with special schools required for online students. This past week, former President Donald Trump endorsing Bill Lee's re-election bid next year. Meanwhile, the Biden administration has reopened the federal comment period on Lee's federal block grant proposal for TennCare, the state's version of Medicaid. The block grant was approved by Trump's administration toward the end of his term in office and ahead of Biden taking office. The Memphis City Council's first discussion on the call for a consolidation charter commission this past week shows a lot of hesitancy, even among some council members who favored the 2010 consolidation bid. In the Tuesday committee discussion, Councilman Chase Carlisle quickly decided not to try to add the resolution to form the Charter Commission for a vote that day, so look for it at the September 7th council session. The County Commission will not get this unless or until the council approves it, and right now it's more a question of unless than until. The doubts about going down this road aren't so much about opposition to a consolidation of the Memphis and Shelby County governments. It's more about whether this actually accomplishes something that is relevant or whether it's a distraction from more pressing issues. Carlisle and other backers of this through the Jobs Now Political Action Committee are heavily pushing this as a way to make the Memphis economy boom by presenting site selectors and consultants with one government to deal with so Memphis doesn't get knocked off the finalist list at the outset. Also on the economic development front, Councilmember Martavius Jones proposing this week a new minimum wage for businesses getting pilots and other incentives from EDGE. The threshold now is $13 an hour. Jones wants to raise it to $21 an hour. This is something Jones talked about specifically the last time the council members and county commissioners had a joint session on the broader topic of economic development. Back of the envelope math as the Shelby County Commission is about to get down to redistricting itself. By the 2020 census results, there are almost 930,000 men, women, and children in Shelby County, broken down by 13 commission districts covering the entire county. That would come to about 71,500 people per commission district. Outgoing Commission Chairman Eddie Jones saying this past week that the goal is to be within 5% either way, higher or lower than that, in setting the new district lines. And by our math, that 5% variance works out to about 3,500 higher or lower. Jones also had some preliminary numbers of district losses and gains. District 2, which is mostly Collierville and represented by Republican David Bradford, has grown by 4,000 in the last decade. Same for District 3, that's Raleigh, Bartlett, and Lakeland, represented by Republican Mick Wright. District 6, Fraser, Raleigh, and some of North Memphis, represented by incoming Democratic Chairman Willie Brooks, lost about 3,000 people. And District 8, downtown Fraser, South Memphis, and part of Central Gardens, represented by Democrat Mikkel Lowry, is down 2,300. This week on Behind the Headlines, we talk with those coordinating the $28 million in federal money available here in Shelby County for rental and utility assistance. Our discussion with Steve Barlow of Neighborhood Preservation, Inc., Dorcas Young Griffin, Director of the county's Community Services Division, and Cindy Ettenoff of Memphis Area Legal Services, Inc. also includes some major changes in the rental market in a city where most of us rent instead of own or pay a mortgage. Those changes are on top of a rental boom in construction and renovation and the ongoing shortage of quality, affordable housing in the city. Listen on the podcast version of the show for an extended conversation that is not included in the TV version. Subscribe to the Daily Memphian, of course, at dailymemphian.com. Subscribe to this podcast and our others at Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. I'm Bill Dries. The Daily Memphian Politics Podcast is produced by Natalie Van Gundy.
In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.